studios of the MetroNews Radio Network in Morgantown, this is West Virginia's premier sports talk show.
From Weirton to Welch, Martinsburg to Matewan, and all points in between, this is the Northside Automotive Statewide Sportsline.
Tonight's show is brought to you by Northside Automotive, Route 19 in Summersville. We'll beat the advertised price of any other dealer in the state, guaranteed. And now, sitting in for Tony Caridi, here's Brad Howe.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Welcome in across the state of West Virginia and beyond. Northside Automotive Statewide Sportsline, Monday, December 14th. Thanks for being with us tonight, wherever you may be. Joined in studio by the Goose, Randy Jerko. Goose, good evening. Welcome in.
What's happening?
Coming up on the show tonight, we're going to talk some Mountaineer hoops here in just a second with Tony. West Virginia rolled Louisiana Monroe last night. Is that an apt description? Rolled them?
Yeah, I think that
lined up, beat them 50.
Man, they got their paycheck, I guess. You put back-to-back games and schedule West Virginia on the back end of that and have to travel.
Yeah, 3 games in 4 days for the Warhawks. They had a tough night at the Coliseum. We'll talk to Tony about that a little bit and look ahead, preview the Capital Classic coming up Thursday against Marshall, and we'll dive into both of those here in just a second. And at the bottom of the hour, we'll hear from Travis Jones, who was on the call Saturday as Shepherd beat Grand Valley State to advance to the Division II football National Championships, which takes place this Saturday in Kansas City. Travis and Rashid will be out there on the call, so Travis is going to join us at the bottom of the hour to recap the game from this past weekend and look ahead to next weekend. And we'll have some time if you'd like to join us. You can tweet me at BradHowe07, at BradHowe07, or you can tweet Goose at Goose Jerko. That's at Goose, GYORKO, or you can call us 1-800-765-8255, 1-800-765-TALK. But right now, let's dive into some hoops. Welcome Tony on the show. Tony, good evening.
Good evening to you, fellas.
Let's. I want to look ahead to Marshall just a little bit, but let's start recapping last night. And I feel like a broken record when I ask you this. So another convincing win for the Mountaineers. What can we take away, if anything, from the lopsided win last night?
Oh, boy. I don't know, to be quite honest with you at this point. I mean, I think it's always good when you're able to make shots from three-point range. It was a tightly packed 2-3 zone, and West Virginia made 15 threes, which is a gargantuan number over a long period of time. It's been a long time since West Virginia hit 15 three-point shots. But again, tightly packed zone, and so I don't know exactly how much you can pull from that other than when left alone, West Virginia can set up and make some shots. Obviously, you're going to play more athletic teams here in the not-too-distant future. They're going to come out and get you a little bit more. So it's good that they can and got that little bounce of confidence. Some of these numbers are just crazy numbers. You take a look at West Virginia gets 40 or 39 more shots. No, not more, not 39. No, let's see, 40 plus 83.
41.
Yeah, 41.
41 more
close.
shots.
Yeah.
41 more shots at the goal. I mean, that's you can't make that stuff up like if you're playing on Xbox. You can't get 41 more shots at the goal. Rebounding, you had one less offensive rebound than Louisiana Monroe had total rebounds in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Turnovers, West Virginia is able to feast on those to the tune of 35 of its 100 points coming off of turnovers. So I think they're whacked out numbers, and I don't know exactly how much you can take from it, to be quite honest with you. How about that for a really long answer?
No, and you're. I think you're right on that. And those are the numbers we talked about. Remember how often last year we said, here's your key points. You need to out-rebound. You need to force turnovers. What's the turnover number and points off turnovers? And then how many more shots does West Virginia get than its opponent? And if those things come out in the positive and to a significant amount, it was generally a win. But I'll go back to the shooting. And I know you're not going to get 15 threes every night, but to see Carter, Miles, and Page each drop down 4 threes, and let's specifically talk Javon Carter because he was kind of the story coming off that Virginia game when he was benched after the attempted behind-the-back pass, did not see the floor the rest of the game. Clearly, message sent, message received. He came out and was ready to go last night.
Yeah, he did. And here's the deal, man. He's a good player, right?
Mm-hmm.
He did have a struggle there against Virginia, but that's the exception rather than it is the rule.
Mm-hmm.
I just truly feel in Javon's case that we have to remember he's still a sophomore playing in the first month of his sophomore season. So to think he's going to be a finished product at this point is not realistic. I think that he is learning and growing into the new role that he's playing on this team. The positive side to all of that is that he is a very good player, and he's going to be an extremely good college basketball player throughout his career. He's going to end his career here with impressive numbers, okay? But he's still, and you've got to give him the benefit here to mature into this new position. I think yesterday was a positive step for him. I think he's starting to realize after the struggle that he had at the Garden and then coming back and working very hard to have a good game, I think that he now is realizing what it's taking. And I think for some people it takes that. I think Daxter Miles is in that same world. And there's a couple of other guys on this team that are still in a learning mode as to what's required to win on a regular basis at this level. This is going to be a heck of a league that we're getting ready to play into. I mean, there's no gimmies. People had written off, Kansas State for dead this season. That's not developing the way people thought. We don't need to say anything about Baylor, Oklahoma, Kansas, Iowa State. Those are all challenges. So this is going to be really hard. So you get what you can get right now, and you just hope that you're learning what it's going to take to win night in and night out.
We're always going to talk about the backcourt when they make the 15 threes that you guys mentioned. Devin Williams got his 12 and 10, another double-double. But some of the other guys, because I think we can kind of expect teams to kind of look at that Virginia game and say, let's make these guys make shots. But some of those other forwards, the Nate Adrian, Elijah Macon, Jonathan Holton, and Ahmad, what do those guys need to do to step up and provide some offense?
Well, I think that Issa is one of those guys that is very much, he's in the similar type of a role that Javon is, in that he is still very much learning, but Javon's got a year head start on him. I just think when you watch Issa Ahmad handle the ball, just watch his flow and his play and his passing, you see that he's kind of like the unfinished star. And how dominant he becomes, I don't know, but he just knows how to play, and just the way that he handles it. And I think that every single moment that he's out there, he's just getting a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. And I think his offense will come. But to think, Goose, at this point that he's going to go out there and get you double figures, night in and night out in the league, I don't think that's in the cards, in the foreseeable future. Maybe later in the season, midpoint February on, hopefully he'll get to a point where he's so comfortable that he's scoring. Jonathan Holton, I mean, we've seen enough of him over the last year and a month. We know what he is. He's a basket finisher guy. He's an energy guy. He's a rebounder. That's what he is. He can go out there and sit and take those three-point shots all day, and he's going to hit one, every once in a while. That's not his game. He's an under-the-basket guy who's been doing a much better job, to his credit, of not getting himself in foul trouble. And Nate, same kind of thing. I think that the position that he's been forced to play in here now takes away a little bit of what he was offensively. He's still, not the offensive player that he showed us that he was in his freshman season. Whether or not that comes back or not, I don't know. It's just, I think it's more in Nate's head at this point. He's got to get some shots to go down. He needs to be more demonstrative. He needs to be more selfish, to be quite honest with you, to get his offensive game going.
Flip to the other end of the court figuratively there, and let's talk defense for a minute. Where do you think this press is under year two in the system, and so many of these guys coming back for their second year? Still a ways to go, or getting close to where it needs to be?
I think the press is better than it was a year ago. I don't necessarily think they're defending as well as they did a year ago. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, I think that it's making me a little bit concerned. I think that guys are getting some easy. So I think some teams are getting some easy baskets against us, and that's got to get better. And whether it does or not remains to be seen. Now, I say that, and it's kind of, someone might be laughing at me, considering that West Virginia is currently number one in the Big 12 in scoring defense. They're number one right now in scoring margin. But I just think that they can be better. Here's why. Field goal percentage defense. West Virginia is 8th in the Big 12. So teams are shooting almost 41% against them, okay? So what that's telling you, in my opinion, is that the teams that they've been playing, right, aren't necessarily great teams to this point.
Yeah.
There have been a lot of Louisiana Monroes on this schedule, and when you jump into the league, those numbers will cycle through. Now, 3-point field goal percentage, I think that can be a strong point. West Virginia, how about this stat? West Virginia's only allowed 32 3-point shots against them in 9 games, right?
Wait, say that again?
They've only allowed 32 threes the whole season.
Goodness.
Opposing teams are 32 of 143. They're shooting 22% from 3-point range. That's not even close. I mean, the second lowest number of threes against an opposing team is 44. That's Oklahoma. So that's a nice stat. Rebounding right now, West Virginia's number 3. Rebounding defense, West Virginia's number 2. Rebounding margin, West Virginia's number 2, only to Baylor, and they've got gathers in that group. The numbers right now, steals, obviously West Virginia's number 1, 12 a game compared to 8 of number 2 Kansas. Turnover margin, you're number 1 in the league. Offensive rebounds, you're number 1. Defensive rebounds, you're number 10 out of all 10 schools in the Big 12 conference. So there's some things that you look at, but I think it's probably somewhere in the middle. I question our defense after what happened against Virginia. I'm hoping that was just a one-night aberration, more so than a sign of a big problem.
Yeah, I'm with you on that part of it. All right, looking ahead, you mentioned upcoming schedule. So we have plenty of time to talk about this, but I want to dive in just a little bit. Marshall coming up, Capital Classic on Thursday. Just give us a quick look ahead to that game coming up.
Well, they were the bad news Bears for the first 6 games. They were 0-6, got beat. The one common opponent was James Madison. The Dukes beat them 89-75. That was the one common opponent so far. And then they lost again twice to James Madison, 107-84. West Virginia obviously handled JMU pretty easily there in Charleston, but after losing their first 6 games, Marshall comes up and gets hot. They beat Eastern Illinois 82-76, and then they fired it up this weekend and beat Eastern Kentucky 96-72. I'd be lying to you if I told you I knew a whole lot about Eastern Kentucky. They got a new coach this season. Jeff Neubauer is gone. Like West Virginia, Marshall hit 15 three-pointers in that game. I know that Eastern Kentucky presses, and Marshall handled it well. Only turned the ball over 14 times, shot 51 from the field, 47 from 3. So, as they say, when 2 teams get together like this, you can throw the record books out the window. I don't know whoever said that, but that's what they say. But, if history tells us anything, normally the game's, closer than people expect.
Oh, that's certainly one thing that we've gotten to know over the years. There's always seems to be every time this year the politics come in with this game, and even more so here in the last couple years with Dan D'Antoni kind of stoking the flames, and even WVU coach Bob Huggins chiming in. A lot of West Virginia people seem to want this game to go away. I personally am in favor of playing it. I like playing it in Charleston. Is this thing going to go away soon?
That's a good question. I asked that question to Billy Hahn last week, who's in charge of the WVU schedule, and he said, that's a question you can ask Coach Huggins. So I think that there is a possibility that this game could go away, to be honest with you. I do think that. Whether it will or not, whether this is the last one, I'm not sure, but I think if Huggs had his way, it would not be played.
Interesting.
Yep.
All right. One last thing before we go. You want to reveal your Heisman votes? Do you do that?
Sure.
Talk about that?
I use a guy on my Heisman votes with me who watches a lot of college football. He stares at 4 screens every Saturday and watches a lot more games than I actually get the chance to watch. So we hit the winner.
So collectively, you came up with what?
So collectively, you and I came up with Derrick Henry as our first pick. We stroked that one.
Yep.
We got McCaffrey in the 2 spot.
Yep.
And we fanned. We went Baker Mayfield as our third pick, and he didn't even get the invite to New York. And I could see, with the Clemson deal in the season that they've had, why they went that way. So 2 out of 3 isn't bad.
2 out of 3. Mayfield finished 4th, and you know what they always say? There was some talk about they didn't invite enough guys. People were up in arms, invite 5, but they always tell you it's the break in the voting that determines how many they invite.
Yeah, and it was pretty.
It was a giant gap
large
between Deshaun Watson and Baker Mayfield. And as we said, Deshaun Watson's certainly worthy. The challenge
Absolutely.
is which of those guys do you take out if you're going to put one in? I just thought from our perspective, and you agreed that we saw Baker Mayfield a lot and was worthy of being in that position. So otherwise, both of those top 2 guys just fantastic seasons, and it certainly sets up a heck of a race next year with Mayfield returning, Watson back, McCaffrey's back, Fournette's back. You don't think Derrick Henry will be back, but you've got some guys heading into next year. Dalvin Cook is back. So, okay, good stuff. All right, we'll let you run. Thanks for the time, and we'll talk some more Marshall hoops tomorrow when you're back.
Deals. Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks, Tone. Tony Caridi checking in. So that was the Heisman vote.
Good stuff.
Probably pretty good, right?
I
tell you what, I wouldn't fight you too much if you told me you put McCaffrey at 1. Fantastic season by that
I
kid,
talked
too.
to buddies of mine, and people that we've had on the show, that have Heisman votes, and they told me how they voted, and obviously swore me to secrecy. But I was like, dude, you're not going to get me to complain. You could have rattled off a list of like 7 guys, and you said that's the guy that I voted for, and I would have said you can make a compelling case. It was just that kind of year in college football, where as long as you didn't go totally off the reservation, I mean, you could have been like, yeah, I could see that. That guy was probably the most valuable, or he had the best numbers.
And Deshaun Watson fits that. The number 3 guy for Clemson, you could have made a
kid
strong
from
case.
Navy. I mean, I could have bought into that.
It was a good year. Good year. All right, time for our first break. When we come back, we'll open up the phone lines, 1-800-765-8255, 1-800-765-TALK. If you'd like to weigh in on Mountaineer football, Mountaineer basketball, the upcoming Marshall game, would you like to see the game continue to be played, or are you ready to say, see ya, we're out, we're done with it? What's your take? 1-800-765-8255. We're back after this.
Someday, we'll go to the edge of the galaxy. But for now, you can go to the ends of the earth in a Jeep brand SUV. Find your adventure in the Jeep Grand Cherokee, the most awarded SUV ever. Catch a show of shooting stars underneath the night sky in the Jeep Cherokee, the 2015 four-wheeler of the year. And go far, far away in the Jeep Renegade with up to 31 mpg highway. Hurry into the Jeep year-end blockbuster sales event. Going on now.
Star Wars The Force Awakens, December 18th, rated PG-13.
Purchase and get 0% APR financing for 75 months or $3,500 total cash allowance on the 2015 Jeep Cherokee Limited 4x4. EPA estimate 1.4-liter engine with manual transmission. 0% APR financing for 75 months equals $1,333 per month per $1,000 financed for well-qualified buyers through Chrysler Capital regardless of down payment. Residency restrictions apply. Take retail delivery by 1/4/16. Jeep is a registered trademark of FCA US LLC.
All Medicare eligible individuals. It's time for open enrollment. Take advantage of the health plan's Medicare plans with benefits such as Silver Sneakers gym membership, an extensive list of doctors and hospitals. Contact us 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week at 1-877-847-7915 or visit healthplan.org/Medicare. This information is not a complete description of benefits. Contact the plan for more information. Limitations, copayments, and restrictions may apply. Benefits and/or copayments coinsurance may change on January 1 of each year.
The Northside Automotive statewide Sportsline returns in 2 minutes, on Metro News. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
Almost there. Just 5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Gosh, cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, you are under arrest because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
This fall, not all blockbusters are movies. The Jeep Black Friday Blockbuster Sales Event. It's the must-see event of the year. Well-qualified current lessees of competitive vehicles get a low-mileage lease on the 2015 Grand Cherokee Laredo for $279 a month.
Welcome back in Northside Automotive, statewide Sportsline Monday edition. Brad Howe, Randy Goose Jerko along with you. A reminder, you can watch our show each night by going to our website, wvmetronews.com. Have you ever wanted to tour the homes of West Virginia's original millionaires? The Bramwell Christmas Home Tour is the perfect opportunity to see how Victorian coal barons of the past lived. Stroll the streets and admire the Christmas decorations on the light posts, storefronts, and more. Real holiday spirit. You'll find it here, wild, wonderful West Virginia. Let's go to the phones real quick, get some of these phone calls in. Phone lines are lit up here. Let's go to Zeke in Cabin Creek checking in. Zeke, thanks for the phone call. Go ahead. You're on the air.
Brad, hate to bring this up. Maybe y'all said something about it previously, and I've missed it. But at one time, there was some talk about Rick Pitino's having prostitutes on campus for his players, and I never heard any more about that. Do you know anything about that?
You know what? Obviously, I know the story, and yeah, you're right. We brought it up when it happened. I don't know where that stands in terms of an NCAA investigation into it. The NCAA was looking in. Pitino has denied any involvement in that and said it's a former director of basketball operations that was heading that up. But no, to answer your question, as of late, I have not heard any new news or new information come out on that story.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate you checking in.
Once that guy lost his current job, that kind of went away. Games started being played, and then it was just kind of like...
Yeah, we'll hear more about that. The NCAA investigation will cycle through, and we'll hear. But again, as we found out with the North Carolina academic fraud situation, it could literally take years to wind through that process. We got some more calls here. Let's go back to the phones, where we're joined by Fred in Charleston. Fred, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Yes, guys, I'd like to have your all's take on why you think Hugs doesn't want the Marshall West Virginia game, because they always are pretty competitive and sometimes very competitive, and for sure a lot better games than some of these teams we beat up on to start the season by 30, 40 points. And it seemed to me like it gets us ready. A good competitive game like that gets us ready for the Big 12.
Okay, Fred, thank you. I'll say this. I'm in favor of the game being played if it stays in Charleston. I talked a little bit last night on the Sportsline with Greg Hunter. I like that game. I've been a part of it on the administrative side where I had to work it, and I may have had a different feeling because that was one of those you just go into, you don't want to lose it. But from an outside fan perspective, I like that it's in Charleston. One of the things I said last night, what is appealing about it to me, just watching it, is that the crowd's not 50-50, but there's a contingent of Marshall people there and there's a contingent of West Virginia people there. And the atmosphere is almost high school tournament-esque in that there's reaction on every basket. So when you get those games that are close, it actually does create a pretty neat environment that's not just one-sided on the part of the home team. So I'm for it. Again, I don't know if the finances on it have changed a little bit since I left the athletic department 4 years ago, but at the time, it was a really great financial boom for both schools on a one-game situation. So there was also that factoring in it as well, from my perspective. So I like the game. If it can stay in Charleston, I'm in favor of it.
Yeah, I think it loses. I think it loses its luster if you play it on campus. I just think it becomes just another non-conference game that I'm not sure that Marshall would bring a ton of people up to Morgantown. I like it in Charleston. To answer his question, as far as I know, and this is I'm not trying to speak for Coach Bob Huggins, but I know last year he had mentioned he does a really good job, or he's really in tune with this RPI thing and getting his team into the NCAA tournament. And last year, Marshall did not have a very good year, and he brought it up, a couple times, and the West Virginia fans bought into it, where this game, actually, even if West Virginia wins, it hurts West Virginia's RPI. I don't know if he was just taking a shot at Marshall or what he was doing there, but that's one of the reasons that has been given in the last couple years for discontinuing it.
Back to the phones. Let's go to John in St. Albans calling in about the Marshall WVU game. John, thanks for calling. Go ahead. You're on the air.
Yeah, I'm kind of like you there, as long as they keep it in Charleston. But the whole thing started because, it benefit Marshall more than it did WVU. That's what they were wanting to start with. Because remember, when they first started, the first 3 or 4 games was in Morgantown. And then they started wanting to trade off, and then it got out of hand, and then they moved it to Charleston. I think it's been better ever since.
Mm-hmm.
But he's right. Marshall just doesn't have the RPI anymore to help West Virginia's schedule. Help their schedule, but it helps Marshall's if they beat West Virginia. So that's not really fair.
Okay, John, thank you. We appreciate you weighing in on the call. Let's go to Bob real quick in Morgantown. Bob, thanks for calling. Go ahead. You're on.
Hey, it's all the world to get to talk to you. You got a good topic tonight, buddy, and no doubt about that. But I'm a little bit different than you because I like this rivalry so much, so much. I think we could play twice each year. Play in Huntington and in Morgantown. I think that's what it should be. And this is a great rivalry. That's just what I want to say to you. It's going to be a great game Thursday.
Thank you, Bob. We appreciate you weighing in. Bob lobbying not only on campuses, he wants one on each campus. Each campus. One more phone call here before we got to get a break in. Let's go to the phone. Steve is weighing in. Steve, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I really don't like the game all that well. I don't like all the most times it's just a foul fest, and I don't like how we have to divide the money with them. For example, if West Virginia has 9,000 bought tickets and they sell 1,500 tickets, they get half the money. And I don't think that part's right.
Okay, thank you for calling it. Revenues are split 50-50, so that was one of the things. And like I said, it was financially beneficial for both schools. I understand what you're saying, but West Virginia did all right on a single-game basis basketball-wise. All right, let's look what we have here on the Twitter. People checking in. Cody says, I like it, but I think they need to do some updates to the Civic Center, which they are. Big updates coming. Spence tweets us, no, lopsided benefit. They get in the Big 12. We'll play them twice gladly. Richard tweets, of mine for this only game. Oh, it's the second tweet here. I didn't see that one. Todd says yes and yes. How's that Coliseum crowd doing since Hugs reprimanded the Civic Center? A lot of you weighing in on
Friend
this
of
question.
the program, Josh Copen, says, actually, I would say yes, but he would also like to see a home and home.
Yeah. Out on the home and home. Totally out. Chris says, agree, should stay in Charleston. Doesn't like Hugs' argument. Hugs' argument is lame. On a C college basketball schedule, there's room for a few awful opponents. I think that's true. I think your challenge is you've got some of these awful opponents already baked in because of the Las Vegas tournament and some other things. So if you're already getting a few that you have to play because of other commitments, then you're bringing in another one with a low RPI. There is some scheduling. How do we say it? There's an art to scheduling that I will say
there's a template.
Bob Huggins has down pretty well on what you need to do, how many you need to have, where the strength of schedule needs to hit. So there is an art to that, and you're right that he has said that in the past. Let's go to Norm in Cassville checking in. Norm, thanks for calling. Go ahead, you're on.
Brad, 10 years ago, I fired them people up down there at Marshall, and I'm going to fire them up again.
Great. Then you're going to hang up. You're going to fire them up, and you're going to hang up. Go ahead.
We've got enough welfare.
Go ahead. So you're out. You don't want to play it.
No.
Norm out. All right, we'll record your vote. Thank you, Norm.
We're going to put him down as undecided.
Norm gets us all in trouble. He throws that out there and then hangs up.
And then goes, all right, I'll leave the forum to you guys.
Here's another one. Jonathan tweets, and people have said this. Yeah, keep playing it. I wouldn't mind seeing it rotate between Charleston, Morgantown, and Huntington.
I just like it in Charleston. I just do.
I'm with you.
For this kind of game, one time a year, go down there, like you just mentioned, the atmosphere, play the game. It's there's two Division I in-state schools. You play like 32, 33 regular season basketball games a year. Play them one time. Play it down there. Let people have fun. Let people cheer. Let them yell at one another as long as they don't, engage in fisticuffs. Have some fun. Play the game.
So there it is. If you want to weigh in, Goose has thrown out the question of the night. Do you want to see the Marshall WVU series continue? You can tweet us at BradHowe07, at Goose Jerko, or you can give us a call, 1-800-765-8255. And at the end of the show here, we'll save some time for some more calls. But coming up next, we're going to talk to Travis Jones, who was on the call this past Saturday in Shepherdstown as Shepherd beat Grand Valley State to advance to the Division II National Championship. We'll talk to him next. Stay with us. We're back after this.
West Virginia has balanced its budget on the back of the coal industry ever since we became a state 150 years ago. Historically, the coal industry and coal-fired electric utilities have accounted for over 60% of all business taxes, while high-energy wages contribute a disproportionate share of income taxes, and coal severance dollars sustain important programs in all counties. All told, the industry infuses over $26 billion to our state's economy. Coal alone has paid down nearly $1 billion of the state's workers' compensation debt. Consequently, all state businesses have experienced major reductions in workers' comp benefits. The coal industry's always supported our people and our economy, but it's under attack from the Obama administration and the EPA. It's fighting to survive. Coal taxes in West Virginia are higher than our surrounding states. We're losing coal markets to our neighbors. Let's get our mines and coal miners working again. Support a reduced tax rate for mining, paid for by West Virginia Coal Association.
As a cyclist, we make choices. We choose which motorcycle manufacturer to buy from. We choose what type of motorcycle we ride. We even choose where and when to ride. We also choose to ride straight, alcohol and drug-free. Alcohol is involved in 50% of motorcycle fatalities in West Virginia. That's 1 in 2 drivers who die each year. Don't become a statistic. Ride straight, alcohol and drug-free. Presented by the West Virginia Department of Transportation, Governor's Highway Safety and Motorcycle Safety and Awareness Program.
The Northside Automotive statewide Sportsline returns in 2 minutes, on Metro News. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
Almost there. Just 5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, you are under arrest because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
This fall, not all blockbusters are movies. The Jeep Black Friday Blockbuster Sales Event. It's the must-see event of the year. Well-qualified current lessees of competitive vehicles get a low-mileage lease on the 2015 Grand Cherokee Laredo for $279 a month.
Welcome back inside Northside Automotive statewide Sportsline. Brad Howe, Goose Jerko, along with you. Twitter blowing up, phone lines blowing up about the question of do you want to see the Marshall game versus WVU continue? Are you on board with that continuing? If you want to join in here during our next segment, When the phones aren't available, you can go to Goose's Twitter, @GooseJerko. He just put out a poll out there. You can vote in his Twitter poll. But we'll get back to your calls here in just a second. Real quick, though, I need to remind you, our friends at Northside Automotive in Summersville have another great deal for you. This one just hit Friday night from their pre-owned inventory. A 2010 Ford Mustang GT. This was $20,995. Now it's only $17,499. Once again, that's a 2010 Ford Mustang GT. It was $20,995. Now it's only $17,499. If you're interested in that, head over to the Northside Automotive Facebook page. You can see some pictures of the vehicle, and there's a link to get some more information. Once again, 2010 Ford Mustang GT from our guys down at Northside Automotive, Route 19 in Summersville. Now let's go to the phones. Welcome in our good buddy Travis Jones. Travis, good evening.
Hey, guys.
Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. You got a little travel coming up here at the end of the week because you were on the call with Rashid on Saturday. Shepherd beats Grand Valley State in the semifinals, advance now to the Division II Football National Championship. But before we look ahead a little bit, I want to go back and look at that Grand Valley State. A bunch of things jumped out at me, a bunch of individual performances, but I think the thing that grabbed me the most, Trav, Mountain East Conference Offensive Player of the Year, quarterback Jeff Ziemba goes down for Shepherd. So one of the best players in Division II goes down. Oh, ho-hum. They just plug in their backup. There goes Connor Jessup, 15 of 20, 173 yards, 2 touchdowns, and this team advances without literally one of the best players in Division II. Amazing performance.
Yeah, what was amazing was Connor went in, and I looked down and obviously had him on my chart. Probably an afterthought that I put him on there just because he'd thrown 8 passes all season. So you get into the biggest game of the year and one of the biggest games in program history. And as you mentioned, Jeff Ziemba went out with a shoulder injury, trying to throw the ball away. Took a high hit, a legal hit, but took a high hit to the chest area near the shoulder and got knocked out. And Connor Jessup comes in, and you're thinking, oh boy, this is a Shepherd team that typically under Monte Cater has been built around the run game and then play action passing. This year they've gone a little more throw heavy than they have in past years because of Jeff Ziemba and Billy Brown, their outstanding wide receiving core. So you thought, oh boy, they're going to have to kind of probably revert back to running the football. And Grand Valley State had been very good against the run, particularly in the playoffs. But Connor came in, did an outstanding job. I think he really got settled down. The coaches from Shepherd, I thought, did an outstanding job of giving him some manageable throws early. Didn't take him long though. I mean, he threw a touchdown pass on I think about his 3rd or 4th pass attempt on that drive that got Shepherd on the board early 7-0 and kind of got them off and rolling a little bit.
Pretty amazing. And you mentioned a guy, it certainly helps when you come at the quarterback position. You're throwing it to a guy like Billy Brown, went 9 catches, 132 yards. He had 2 touchdowns. And a couple interesting points. Last week, Greg and I did Hotline in place of Dave Weekly, and we had Carl Lee on the Monday night, and he had done one of the games recently and mentioned just physically how Billy Brown looked, and he even made the comment, back in Carl's day, that kid's a tight end in the NFL body-wise. We had Greg on last night, Travis, and Greg's probably told you this, talking about one of his family members who's on the coaching staff at the University of Florida, who has said Billy Brown would be Florida's best receiver right now on their roster. Now, I know Florida's down a little bit, but that's really high praise for Billy Brown, who's had just a fantastic year.
Yeah, he is such a huge matchup problem. And Grand Valley State, put their best corner on him, man coverage most of the afternoon. And, as you mentioned, he had 9 catches and had a huge catch late in the 4th quarter when Grand Valley had rallied from 11 points down to retake the lead. And Brown makes a huge catch in traffic and 2 defenders right there by the ball and took it down to the 3-yard line and would catch a touchdown pass on a play action pass after that. But, he's just such a big physical specimen. I think the only knock on him, has been that, again, he's, one of Shepherd's all-time leading receivers in school history, but he tends to at times kind of go away in games. He emerges but then goes away. It seems like they get him active early and then, really late when they need to make a play. So I'm sure part of the game plan on Saturday is going to be, try to keep him a part of the game in all 4 quarters as opposed to, establishing him early and then, coming back to him late.
Big picture, Travis. We talked to Rashid at the beginning of the year after he had done a couple games, and we asked him what this league was like, and he said it was very competitive. He wouldn't be shocked to see multiple teams make the playoffs. The league is so new, and it had legitimization on a basketball standpoint from West Liberty. What is Shepherd making it this far do for this league only 3 years in?
Oh, this is huge, as you mentioned. I mean, this is not uncharted water for the league in terms of all sports. They just won a volleyball championship over the weekend with Wheeling Jesuit winning, so that helps legitimize the league, no question. But I mean, we all know that the football is the big gorilla. So football is the one that I think most people look at, and honestly, it's the one, guys, where the West Virginia Conference was playing the most catch up. Over the years, men's basketball's always been competitive. We always look at the PSAC, the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference, is kind of the barometer to where the West Virginia schools have progressed in facilities, in funding, in competitiveness on the national scale, all of that. Men's basketball, West Liberty's emergence has certainly, allowed the Mountain East Conference to make a proper claim that they belong. Now, with the emergence of Shepherd, and I think even, I think what needs to be pointed out is the fact that Shepherd didn't win this league last year. Yeah. Shepherd lost to Concord. It was Concord that was in the semifinals last year. This year you get 3 teams in to the NCAA playoffs, and again, the caveat we threw around all year was, well, yeah, but they're going to add an extra team into the region, so yeah, the Mountain East the Mountain East didn't need it. They would have gotten 3 teams in no matter. So yeah, it's been a banner year. Now, can you make the next step and win the national championship? That certainly would be a next huge step for this league. But I think even if Shepherd comes up short on Saturday, I think this league still has gone a long way in placing itself in terms of the pecking order, legitimacy in football in the Division II ranks.
Yeah, I think you're right. About a minute left here before we let you go. Look ahead a little bit to that game. Not asking you for a full preview yet. We've still got a few days to get into that. But you and Rashid will be out there on the call. What are you looking for when you get to Kansas City?
Well, a couple things. We talked about Grand Valley State and the fact of how dominant they have been. Well, if you sit down and look at it, actually Northwest Missouri State has been more dominant in terms of Division II and national championships. This will be their 9th appearance in a national championship game. They've won 4 national championships. Most recent was in 2013. They also, you talk about a run. They were in the national title game 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, and 2009. They lost 4 straight years and finally broke through and beat Grand Valley State back in 2009 and won titles back-to-back in 98 and 99. Talking to a couple people I know out there just about the overall program. They travel extremely well. This stadium, it's primarily a soccer stadium, or actually it is a soccer stadium. It's an MLS stadium. So it seats about 19,000 for football and the football configuration. I know that Shepherd was allotted about 2,000 tickets. This campus from Marysville, Missouri for Northwest Missouri State, they're only about an hour from Kansas City. So this is really going to have a feel of a road game for Shepherd on Saturday, I do believe.
All right, good stuff. We'll let you run now. We'll catch up later in the week as we get closer to talk more about Shepherd appearing in the national title game coming up on Saturday. You and Rashid will be there with the call on WVMetroNews.com and stations around the state. Thanks, Trav. We appreciate the time.
All right, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, we'll talk soon. There he is, Travis Jones weighing in. Time to get our final break in. I see you. I see you on the phone. Hang tight. You've been great and been hanging. We'll get to you as soon as we come back after these messages. Stay with us.
There are things that make our lives easier.
Locking shoelaces, pizza scissors, remote control mops, one-hand bottle cap openers, and the Know Before You Go driving app.
It's free travel information on West Virginia highways, traffic congestion, work zones, road conditions, information that can make your travel easier. Log on to WV511.org or download the WV511 Drive Safe app.
Know Before You Go. It'll make your life easier.
Hi, it's Tony Caridi with a question. What can a video do for you? Well, if you're in business or part of an organization, let me tell you what videos have done for our clients at Pikewood Creative. Our commercials have generated millions of dollars in new business. Our long-form videos have helped capital campaigns raise tens of millions of dollars. That's what a video can do for you. If you have a need, then visit us at pikewoodcreative.com. That's Pikewood Creative.
The Northside Automotive statewide Sportsline returns in 2 minutes. On MetroNews for 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
Almost there. Just 5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, you are under arrest because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
This fall, not all blockbusters are movies. The Jeep Black Friday Blockbuster Sales Event. It's the must-see event of the year. Well-qualified current lessees of competitive vehicles get a low-mileage lease on the 2015 Grand Cherokee Laredo for $279 a month.
Final segment, Northside Automotive, statewide Sportsline, Brad Howe, Randy Goose Jerko along with you. Have you ever wanted to tour the homes of West Virginia's original millionaires? The Bramwell Christmas Home Tour is the perfect opportunity to see how Victorian coal barons of the past lived. Stroll the streets and admire the Christmas decorations on the light posts, storefronts, and more. Real holiday spirit. You'll find it here. Wild, wonderful West Virginia. All right, calls and tweets still pouring in on Goose's impromptu question of the night. Do you want to see the Marshall WV game continue? And an offshoot of that question, if so, on campuses or in Charleston? Back to the phones. Guys have been holding for a long time. Jack calling in on his cell. Jack, thanks for holding and calling. Go ahead. You're on the air.
Yes, sir. Enjoy your show.
Thank you, sir.
Listened to it for a long time. For Marshall, I think the game should be played in Charleston because of the people in southern West Virginia can't get to Morgantown to see the basketball games.
Okay. Yeah, so go ahead.
You go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, so you like it, you want to play it, put it in Charleston.
Yes, sir.
Keep it in Charleston. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
I know the ups and downs of the game, and Huggins is right. It's a win-lose situation, and both of them for us, but,
But you like it.
Thank you.
You watch it, and you'll enjoy watching it. All right, Jack, thank you.
Amen.
Your vote tallied and counted. Thank you for calling in. We'll go to Bill in Cheat Lake. Bill, thank you for holding. Go ahead. You're on.
How you doing, Brad? I'm
We're
going to ask
good.
you a couple questions.
All right,
I
fire.
know you've been the athletic director.
Fire.
I would like it in Charleston. I think it's good for the state, even though we may not make as much money. And I got another question to ask. My brother was a coach, and he asked me, what do you think about your point guard getting kicked out? And, I didn't like it. He said, well, he needs to be doing, and Florida paper said he was hot dogging. And I said, well, I don't know about that, but you know what? He is a good ball player, and you would lose a game just to prove a point. He says, yes, I did that before. I don't agree with you. I don't agree with you, brother, but you know what? West Virginia, he is a good ball player,
Yep.
and you get him the ball when he's spotted up, he's not going to miss too many of them.
And he didn't last night,
One
did
thing
he?
about the care up in the Gardens, when he went out, I think the players felt for him. And you look, one thing that disturbed me that Williams is going back to where he was a freshman. When he puts his head down and goes to 2 or 3 guys like a bull in a china shop, he's going to foul out. And he did that a lot. And he did it when he was a freshman and sometimes, as a sophomore. But he's a good ball player. And what do you think about that?
Okay, Bill. Thank you. Appreciate you calling. A lot of things to digest there. So what he's referring to, Javon Carter getting pulled for the attempted behind-the-back pass. Hugs did not take kindly to the behind-the-back pass. I agree. I like Carter a lot. I think he can do a bunch of good things. He came back with a vengeance last night, going 7 of 14 from the floor, 4 of 9 from three-point land, 3 of 4 from the free throw line. Finishes with 21 points and 5 steals. So a fantastic game for Javon Carter. I think he's right about Devin Williams. Devin has to watch that. He has a tendency to get the ball in the low post and just strong-arm his way to the basket. But he's off to a fantastic start, back in the double-double category again. So certainly he's a key moving forward. What Bill say? He was on record for the game in Charleston or no?
Yeah, I think he said he liked it down there.
One thing to keep in mind, he mentioned even if you don't make as much money, actually, again, this is outdated information maybe over the last 4 years if they've changed the financial structure, but it used to be much more beneficial for one game than one game in Morgantown does. The finances worked for both parties, West Virginia and Marshall, when that game was played in Charleston. A couple tweets coming in. Jack says, I'm not from the West Virginia area, but love these regional matchups. Similar debate in Kansas with KU, K-State, and Wichita State. This is a regional matchup. One interesting thing there, I think I'd have to say the Wichita State, you don't have an RPI argument with Wichita State because they might have the best RPI. They're certainly better than K-State. They may not have the Kansas RPI, but that's certainly a big RPI there. Lee tweets and says, no game benefit. No, the game benefits the herd, not so much WVU. We win, we're supposed to. We lose, it's a bad loss. And I get that theory.
I get it, but part of me just says, if you're supposed to beat them and you look down on them like they're the little brother, then go wipe the floor with them. And when the game's done, say, see, we told you, and hold your head up. It's not a lose-lose. When you win a game, that's not a losing proposition.
The only losing proposition.
If you lose the game.
And there have been years when you win the game and the RPI drops. That has happened. And again, I can't tell you which year that is right now, but that has happened in the past. So
from 31 to 33?
Even if it drops a little. I mean, you don't want to be dropping in the RPI after a win. That's not a good scenario. So there is some merit to that particular statement. That's not every year. That doesn't happen every year. Last word goes to Richie. He says, I like it, keep it, and play it in Charleston. All right, so clearly we still have votes and info coming in. Remember, if you want to vote in the poll, go see @GooseJerko on Twitter. We'll continue this as we get into tomorrow and Wednesday ahead of the game coming up on Thursday. And that's going to do it for us tonight. If you missed any part of the show, remember, you can catch the podcast on iTunes or visit our website, wvmetronews.com, and download tonight's show. Thanks to Travis for joining us, Tony for checking in at the top, and all of you for your calls and tweets. Excellent participation tonight. We're back tomorrow, 6:06. We'll talk then. For Goose, I'm Brad Howe. Thanks for listening. We're out.
The Northside Automotive Statewide Sportsline has been an exclusive presentation of the MetroNews Radio Network. Copyright 2015. All rights reserved.